Hello everyone! Greetings dear Aristobats, fellow immortals and mortals yet to be claimed by the night. Welcome to this lady's humble abode. It's finally time to learn more about a dear, shy girl, Marcus. I'm hoping they'll tell us more about her past, about the orphanage, because I got questions. But taking that Ezra's character story was more of the future than the past, who knows, maybe we'll see what happened after the events of chapter 5 for Marcus. Let's get to it. I'm glad they've taken out the preludes, because it was always getting me by surprise when I wanted to record. I mean, I like that got you straight into the story, but I like having control. Okay, I'm a control freak. So, the Tall Lighthouse. Stage 1, periodical suffering. I seem to have stood still for an eternity, engulfed by a sea of thoughts, kept silent as a cemetery. The 3 lighthouse keepers on the isle still remain, where they should have long passed into memory. So much has transpired here upon the Flannel Isles, each and every event etching itself into my consciousness. I hadn't realized that with this costume her eyes have this much red in them. I wonder if it's just a stylistic choice or if it's got something to do with her powers.
History of the Flannel Isles.
Despite all my installments so far in the history of the Flannel Isles, what I've documented barely scratches the surface. The readers, I believe, share my eagerness for the next issue of the Daydream Post. I cannot let them down. The young lady rubs her eyes and refocuses back to her writing. The history of the Flannel Isles column has to fit in roughly a third of a page. But there are so many more stories about the archipelago I've yet to tell, stories the readers still haven't heard.
Maybe.
Mr. Dennehy mentioned that even the editors have following the mysteries of the Flannel Isles with intrigue. If I can keep up the interest, she might allow me an additional section.
Exactly.
That way, I can present our readers with a more comprehensive look at their stories. Ooh, that's a cool effect. I like it. Livened up, she dives back into her writing. The Flannel Isles, a small island chain in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland, have been the subject of rumour for years. Even up to today, many mysteries still remain here. Of course, to hear it from the credible authorities, the lighthouse and indeed the whole archipelago were perfectly normal, all except for its 3 vanished lighthouse keepers. Speculation over their disappearance drove the public wild, yet the authorities claimed they're simply swept away in a deadly storm. This, of course, did nothing to convince them. Meanwhile, a sailor claimed to have seen coal-black UFOs over the islands, casting eerie cold beams of light. Other theories included gargantuan man-eating birds, a bottomless abyss, and so on. Rumors continue to swirl, but the truth remains elusive. The police report, the log entries, and the lack of any recovered bodies, they all scream one thing: this is no simple disappearance. 12 years have passed, yet driven by curiosity, I decided that I must visit the islands myself, and there I discovered a never-before-seen logbook. The signature on it, James recorded on December 15, 1900. Her pen hangs mid-air like a sail on still water, hesitating to embark next line. So much time has passed since the incident, yet the mysteries only seem to multiply. How can I sift through all these story threads? Before setting foot on the island, I heard other unsettling rumors from the sailors. Ships passing too near often find themselves caught motionless on the sea, with eerie and unnatural ooze forming on their decks. These frightful tales have meant that most give this archipelago a wide berth. this is a story worth telling.
But
Meanwhile, there is the matter of the island's lighthouse, which has, through unknown means, been kept in operation for 12 years despite being abandoned. If I failed to include that sort of mystery in my history of the Flannan Isles, I'd surely regret it. Which of course leads to the central mystery of them all, the disappearance of the original lighthouse keepers in the first place. Spoiled for choices, Marcus is nonetheless in a very briny pickle. An arduous choice lies before the poor girl.
History of the Flannan Isles.
Belongs to the islands themselves. It's only fair that I treat the stories impartially. To turn down the opportunity to tell any of these stories feels like betraying the truth itself. Her gaze wanders, shifting from one page of notes to another. There it is, a narrow path that she could follow to capture the essence of the stories. I set the logbook aside, noticing the lighthouse just as its light washes past me. After the disappearances, no one proved willing to station on the Flannan Isles. The alien Moor lighthouse was left unmanned, and so it should have been. From the base of the lighthouse, I walk step by step upward. Curiously, I notice the wooden stairway beneath my feet appears to be meticulously well maintained, and stranger still is a warm yellow light spilling from the apex of the tower.
Oh dear.
They all silently yet truthfully convey an astonishing revelation that this lighthouse has been running just as well as it had since it was abandoned 12 years ago. My footsteps falter, nearly tumbling backward at the realization, yet how could I believe all that I am seeing? Nevertheless, the slippery moss and weathered scratches adorning the grounds prove with cold logic that 12 years must indeed have passed here. After composing myself, I decide to begin my exploration. Just before I alighted, I sounded the ship's steam whistle to signal to passing vessels if there were any. Then I took 3 remaining... if misfortune befalls me, at least the maritime police can collect my body here within a week and have my story publicized, if that must be my last humble contribution to the world. Stepping back onto the island, I no longer feel as relaxed as before. A touch of fear and sorrow occupies me, but thankfully, my heart still harbors the courage to strive for knowledge and human progress, and to unveil the truth of this mysterious place. Door locks won't bar my way. I deftly climb through a window, entering into a cramped space that, by all rights, should have been long forgotten and mouldering. Marcus has fully immersed herself in the world she's recreating, wandering freely along the blank page, then back to the ink-stained wards. The kitchen door is open, though there is naught inside. Not even a mouldy apple, a rotten orange, not even a cobweb. My mind, as yet stiff with anticipation, suddenly and involuntarily relaxes as it stumbles over an idle thought.
Perhaps.
This was nothing more than a prank, of a poorly executed one. Or perhaps a kind-hearted soul, for the safety of all the ships in the area, made a habit of replacing the lighthouse lamp and repairing its rusty screws, but bowed by some secret honor, swore to never tell any of his work. These are, for now, my best theories on the nature of this mystery. Marcus wields her pen with renewed fire, drowning out the sounds around her. Out of obligation, I settled on making a final cursory check before leaving. To think it would mark the beginning of a whole new chapter of this unfolding mystery. Inexplicably, I found myself knocking on the bedroom door, stifling a chuckle as I soon realized my folly. Knock, knock, knock. But as I brace to push open the door, it swings open in spite of me with a grating creak. The sudden movement causes me to stagger and stumble, falling beside the fireplace inside the room. To my surprise, the coal dust under my palms holds a comforting warmth, as if it had come from a dying flame, one that could again alight. 2 figures form just beyond my vision, at first pale and translucent, but gaining substance as if to match my palpable fear. Are you ghosts? My girl, even if they were ghosts, would they answer to you? The pair of specters suddenly shriek, as if in terror. You can see us? Oh my god, they answered. And we face each other dumbfounded before a series of knocks come from outside, steady and deliberate. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking is no longer just a figment of the author's recollection.
Ms. Marcus.
Anyone in there?
Oh, yes.
A moment, please. She hurriedly gathers the papers now scattered across the desk, stacking them aside neatly. Lest the voice outside had grown impatient, she cautiously pulls the door open. Ooh.
Ms. Marcus.
Greetings, Miss Marcus. The man before her, with his stern grey and neatly patterned tie, nods courteously. Greetings. You'll see here I've been sent by the St. Pavlov Foundation. I'm the investigator responsible for registering all arcanists in the Island Sire region. His tone is flat and official, but his bearing exudes an air of entitlement and pride.
What is that?
The Foundation? The significance behind that name has clearly been lost on the young lady. Okay, so it appears that the Foundation took her in as a teen and not as a child. Like, she already had found a job for herself after growing up a little, and they just found her like that. It's a little disappointing to me that we're going this route, but alright. We still don't know what else we're going to see. Like, I wanted to know more about her, not about mysteries she's looking into due to her job. Stage 2, a lone bird or a grey dog. The two arcanists at the door exchange identical, puzzled glances. The growing tension of the moment proves too much for the columnist to handle.
Oh no,
Have I misspoken?
it's all my fault.
Was I so immersed in my writing that I neglected this gentleman's sermons? I don't recall how many times the door was knocked. Was it 2, 3, or 5? No, perhaps more than that, indeed.
Perhaps.
The sound of the door seems more muffled than usual. I should write Miss Dennehy to see if she might buy me a doorbell to send along with my fee.
But
To travel all this way is nowhere near convenient. I doubt anyone besides the post would deliver here. Her thoughts wander further and further, only to be brought back by a deliberate and expectant cough.
Ms. Marcus.
Allow me to get straight to the point, Miss Marcus. Our records show you've not left the Flannan Isles in some time.
Oh,
Yes. To be candid, this choice of accommodation has caused a bit of an inconvenience for our registrations. Most arcanists, at the very least, will frequent the bare minimum of social events like the grand exhibitions or the festivals in Edinburgh. Lady Nellie Melba's divine voice echoes in theatres from Europe to Australia, and if nothing else, the Highland Games attract thousands of spectators and participants every year. Somehow, even the dreariest of my colleagues find time to celebrate these occasions, at least on occasion. I mean to say the world is filled with all kinds of wonders, and forgive my directness, Miss Marcus, but you ought to consider seeing more of it. And I hesitate to mention... The man's barrage of verbiage overwhelms the reclusive lady at the door.
Perhaps.
This gentleman has caught some kind of mania, or have I really been isolated on this island too long and forgotten that people are all talkative like this?
Calm down, Marcus.
Steady on, Marcus. You can handle this. Fist clenched, she quietly cheers herself on. The current situation calls to mind a page of advice from Introduction to Social Etiquette. Rather than admitting their ignorance on the subject, a cultured person is wise to steer the conversation towards grounds more familiar to both parties. And for this gentleman, a most suitable topic would be...
I got it!
I have it! Lifting her head, she realizes she must seize the opportunity to pierce through the man's blather.
Sir?
I believe I heard a lot about your foundation when I was in the orphanage. That you were collecting arcanists, particularly children, and that you did so by force. By force! Oh, here we go! In my first reverse video that I described a few things about the game to people who potentially weren't familiar with what it is about, I think I did mention, while describing the Foundation, that they take arcanists and probably mostly kids, I think, because they're more likely to be obedient and there's still space for them to grow their powers and stuff like that. And I hope I did say it, that I believed that plenty of them came there by force. Because, for example, Matilda was enrolled in the Foundation school or whatnot, but other kids were just brought there. So yeah, here we have proof of that speculation that they indeed take some people and kids, mostly kids, by force. Some children said people from the Foundation took away their friends. The investigator's face grows somber. Evidently, the conversation had not been going as prescribed by Introduction to Social Etiquette. That much was clear, even to Marcus.
Oh!
That was a poor excuse for a joke, Miss Marcus. We're indeed living in a wondrous era where transgressing social norms have become greatly valued. Rationality, science, freedom, and with it, of course, a progressive sense of humor. I'm sure you only meant to appeal to that transgressive humor, but those accusations are quite inappropriate even as a joke. Especially as you haven't officially joined the Foundation yet.
No.
I don't mean to offend you. It happens in my home country, in Romania. Perhaps things are different here. Regrettably, there is nothing close to applicable in this scenario from her reading of Introduction to Social Etiquette. The heavier blow drops as Marcus at last picks up the man's intention in coming all this way.
Oh, wait!
Wait a moment, sir. Did you just mention something about joining the Foundation? Me? I've changed my voice 100 times so far. I'm sorry, guys, but I keep getting out of flow because I'm trying to be closing doors again to avoid extra sounds from the background. And when I sit back down, I have a different tone because of my anxiety.
Of course.
Naturally. Is there a problem? He adjusts his lapels in both hands as if launching into a well-practiced speech.
Ms. Marcus.
Shall I take it your heart is beating so fast out of excitement? Oh man, you've terrified her. I understand how you feel. Many new colleagues have experienced similar emotions, but please, don't worry. The Foundation has a full-fledged medical support system.
Sir?
Would you stop for a moment? Her voice trembles as she speaks. I very much appreciate you coming here. I've come to fully understand the importance of the Foundation and its popularity among other people, and, well, of course, I'm grateful for your invitation. But as you can see, I currently have some unfinished tasks at hand, which are related to my dream. Marcus turns her gaze back, staring at the small corner behind the doorway, her world of writing. Oh, a dream! Well, might I ask what is your dream, Miss Marcus? The investigator nods knowingly, as if Marcus's response is not at all unexpected. I dream of making people aware of the mysteries of the Flannan Isles and about the world of Arcanum, and... Aye, well, that is indeed a great aspiration. He steps forward, gesturing toward the boundless sea.
Ms. Marcus.
But, Miss Marcus, don't confine yourself to these islands. Look beyond the horizon. The world out there is full of mysteries waiting for us to explore and uncover.
Of course.
And that is precisely what the Foundation aims to do. Surely you wouldn't withhold your contribution to the welfare of humanity and the progress of civilization? No, indeed this closely aligns to my goals. It's only that... She pauses, swallowing the rest of her unfinished sentence. The investigator comes to some sudden realization as he scrutinizes the girl in the doorway. Oh, of course. You're a renowned writer, with countless readers awaiting your next piece. Marcus hurriedly waves her hand in denial, a noticeable flash spreading from her ears to her cheeks.
In fact,
No, in fact, I'm really just a greenhorn columnist. Allow me to make my pitch again. The Foundation possesses a great multitude of literary works from all over the world, be they about humans or arcanus. Upon joining the Foundation, you need only to fill out a book request form pending approval from our supervisors in administration, and then you can read our catalog to your heart's content. Joining the Foundation would more than serve any writer.
but
There are still so many people curious about the events that occurred here. Stories I've yet to write. More importantly, James, Thomas, and Donald, my friends, they're all counting on me to tell the stories about these islands.
sorry.
My work here is not finished, she gasps as if dislodging a boulder from her chest. The man frowns, his disappointment evident beneath a polite exterior.
All right.
As you wish, madam. I will faithfully report your choice to my superiors. My choice? She panics again.
No.
I mean, I haven't made any choices yet. I only hope that you might give me some time to consider your proposal. I promise, it won't be long. Whether moved by her nearly pleading tone or swooping in on his speech again, the investigator clears his throat.
But
As you wish, but I would caution you that the Foundation's enrollment capacity is limited. Should you tarry too long in this site, and you may find yourself waiting outside our offices, wishing you'd taken up the offer sooner. She just said they're taking kids by force, and now they act like they're full? I mean, come on. When you've made your mind up, send this to Aileen's sire. No need to write a specific address, just the Foundation will do. He hands Marcus a letter with a checkered pattern, then turns abruptly without looking back. Left alone, the girl sways and collapses to the ground. The blank form is clenched tightly in her hand, creased with worries. The Foundation is a renowned organization, one that possesses a significant number of arcanists, like me, and might be a source of insights for my future work. Not to mention the Foundation's colossal collection of books both on Arcanum and human society.
But
Still, I have to think about my readers. They'll be waiting for the latest stories from the Flannan Isles. To forget that Miss Dennehy holds great expectations concerning my work.
history, Flannan Isles.
How could I disappoint them? Won't anyone help me with this conundrum? Her faint cry fails to travel far. It fails even to drown out the sound of renewed knocking.
Hey!
Ahoy, Miss Marcus! You're finally awake! We thought we might find you sleeping outside again for the 13th time. And with your eyes still open. Oh, are these all ghosts? Another voice adds to chorus of cooing over Marcus.
Everyone?
Nothing unusual, is it, boys? Our wee Marcus has always been good at sticking her nose around looking for things she can, what did you call it? Read. Oh, hello, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Donald, and Mr. James. You break out our poor ghostly hearts, miss. Did you nae hear our footsteps rushing over to you? Marcus gives a quick glance at the three men's feet, which are nearly transparent and hoverishly slightly off the ground.
Sorry.
Right, no time for beating round the bush, Cuddies. Give the letter on over to the lass. I'll bet it's another admirer heaping praise on our Marcus. Another letter is handed to Marcus, bearing a pattern familiar to her. Dinna worry, Miss Marcus. We were good, just as we promised. Remember the tongue lashing you gave us when the last postman took a tumble into the water from fright? We're quite a church mice around the postman lately. Hey, Donald, you can attest to it, what with him always hiding at a distance like a right coward.
What?
Don't call me a coward, but I promise you Thomas hasn't spooked them. Nary a bad face nor wink this time. Still, the postman turned tail the second he tossed down the letter. And just what are they so afraid of, anyway? This place, I reckon. That's why we need our wee Marcus and the history of the Flat Isles to tell a story. That's exactly what our wee Marcus is trying to do.
What?
What's wrong, Miss Marcus? You seem a mite troubled. Something odd about that envelope. Oh. It's a rejection for my 15th edition of History of the Flying Isles. So, she has published 14 editions of this history, but the final one didn't make it. So I'm guessing this will push her to follow the foundation now. And she also can see ghosts. It's kind of sweet though that the ghosts have grown so attached to her and see her as one of their own and treat her like a little child they're taken care of. Because she's chosen to tell the story, they're very grateful, I suppose. But I don't really understand how ghosts work in the world of reverse in general. Like, even in the case of Isolde, we saw that she was able to see ghosts, but others couldn't. But in this case, it appears that everyone can see these ghosts because even the postman saw them and ran away. So I don't know if it's a choice, if some ghosts are capable of showing themselves where others don't. This is very over the place and depending on the character you're dealing with each time, I believe. But then again, you can say Click is also a ghost. And the ghost girl that wears the sheet, I forget her name. Again, when I start playing her, I will be able to remember her name. But this time I think it's Poltergeist. It's Poltergeist. Yes, I remembered. Yeah, these two are ghosts. So we know ghosts can actually use their arcanum after death as well. But not everyone can do that. So when people die in this universe, what keeps them in ghost form, I wonder? And being able to use their powers still. Anyway, I don't think they will tell us in this story, but it's just an open question for the future. Blue Pock, do tell us what's up with the ghosts in your universe, because I'm getting confused. Stage 3, 3 islands. The rejection letter shakes in her trembling hands. We regret to inform you that after discussion by the editorial board, we will be unable to publish the 15th edition of your History of the Flannan Isles. We would like to share with you our primary concern regarding this edition. Since its publication, History of the Flannan Isles has gotten intense discussion among our readers. We are well aware of the curiosity about the mysterious archipelago and of your skillful writing. It is in this hope that we ask you to revise your latest edition to reveal the truth about the 3 lighthouse keepers in greater detail. It cannot be understated that we're by no means doubting your capabilities, Miss Marcus, but with their limited understanding of Arcanum, most of our readers have expressed that they are more interested in what happened to the lighthouse keepers in the truth. They believe that you can unveil this mystery that has puzzled us for more than a decade and come to a tidy end for the story. In light of our decision, we have already reserved some promotional space for History of the Flannan Isles. We look forward to your revised edition. Yours faithfully, Dennehy. The letter floats to the ground, falling from a trembling hand. The girl lowers her head, devastation lingering over her. Miss Dennehy says she's unsatisfied with the latest edition. But aren't the stories all a part of uncovering the truth our readers are expecting? The oddly arranged wreath, the ultimate cause of the lighthouse phenomena. Aren't the readers curious at all? The truth about what happened to the lighthouse keepers. Did I do something wrong? Marcus looks out at the ghosts gathered around her. It seems that the readers are really eager to learn about is not the Isles, but your legend. The elder ghost pats Marcus on the shoulder.
Marcus.
It's not your fault, wee Marcus. You'd think there were not but spoiled brats left in the world. Aye, but you cannot blame them, can you? How could rocks and lighthouses compete with the tale of 3 seasoned seafaring spirits? He nods as if he's reluctantly admitting to some truth. Some loyalty they've shown. Up till now, they couldn't stop puffing up your works. A brand new approach to documentary literature, a one-of-a-kind writing style, a highly, what was it now? A highly immersive reading experience. The younger ghost recites her remarks indignantly. They said it themselves, and then in just a blink, R.W. Marcus is no longer what was it they said? A progressive icon of literary trends, some old song like that.
Sir?
Mr. Thomas, please say no more.
In fact,
I could never live up to that kind of praise. Besides, there's no denying it. This is a rejection letter. Marcus's cheeks flash in shame, her head lowered deep into her chest. To be fair, I do understand it, like no writer in the world wants to be taken a rejection first and foremost, but also to be told revise what you wrote. There's a reason we send things the way we do, and when they are not up to par for publishing houses or magazines, it f***s you up, it really does. Because, when somebody sends something back for revision, it's, fix your grammar mistakes, it's all cool. You don't have to change what you wrote in the first place. You just have to be more careful with your grammar. But this is the context. People are tired of reading about the atmosphere of the Isles and want to know how the three dudes died, from what I understand. Suddenly, a flood of thoughts flows into her mind.
oh dear,
The way I boasted to that Foundation gentleman about my work.
maybe.
Perhaps he was aware of this letter. Maybe he even secretly laughed at my ignorance. Girl, you're overthinking, but I feel you because I'm an overthinker myself. Could he have passed by the mailbox on the way here? And opened the letter? Because it didn't say rejection on the outside, my girl. She repeatedly examines the envelope as if seeking confirmation of something.
No.
Oh, don't worry, Miss Marcus. The glue on the envelope was intact when we got it. Could have been opened by anyone else. No, I'm not worried about anything. Still deflating like a punctured balloon, she murmurs to herself. The Foundation...
Perhaps.
The Foundation investigates any arcana pending registration. They probably examined every letter set to arrive here recently. If so, they might read out this rejection letter at some book club gathering, and then I would become the laughingstock of the entire island Shire, no, the entire United Kingdom. Okay, she's worse than me. My poor baby, you don't have to think that way. Oh, all right, I'll have to write them. Maybe I should ask the Foundation not to report what I boasted about my literary work, but should I really join the Foundation?
History of the Flannan Isles.
The progress of the history of Flannan Isles hasn't been quite as smooth as I'd imagined. Perhaps I don't need more time to think about it. Oh, but that investigator did imply that the Foundation's not particularly patient. Would he take my decision as disrespectful? It's okay to have a personality and goals and aspirations. Even if you took it as disrespectful, you shouldn't care. Like, you're an independent little girl that had her job thus far, her dream. We can all be having the Foundation on our doorstep and then be ready to fall in line with everything they say. Lightheaded and drained, she braces herself with a fainting step. The spectral sailors gather around, lifting the fallen letter from the ground together.
Marcus.
Raise your head, wee Marcus. I'm sure the lads and I can help. In my admittedly humble kind of writing and reading, isn't it so that writers place the most interesting content at the very beginning so that they grab the readers and keep them reading? So if what you're baiting them in with are the likes of rocks, seagulls, and lighthouses, well, they're not so much the kind that sees your attention, eh? He gives his chest a few pats.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my humble self, on the other hand, I've lived here for decades, not to mention I've been here not living for a decade more. I reckon the memories I've got tucked away could make for some pleasing bait indeed. The quiet ghost timidly speaks up. I think maybe James is right. Maybe you could write, just a wee bit more about our stories. If you like, that is.
I mean...
I only mean, we've spent a lot of time on these islands. People don't need to come here in person to see what we saw, to hear what we heard. Maybe this could clear up all the fear. Maybe make people curious. The suggestion, though, as a whisper, speaks volumes. The other two ghastly gentlemen look at him in proud approval.
Great.
Exactly. He may be quite curious about the past, and of course, more than happy to let these youngins glean something from old James' yarns.
Now that's experience.
See, the mind of a seasoned sailor like myself is filled with heart-stirring stories. I could go on for days. He proudly strokes his mustache, preserved in spirit, exactly as trim and refined as the old sailor himself.
Oh!
You're pulling my leg, mate. Fat chance they give a barnacle's bottom about those ancient salty fish tales of yours. Intentional or not, the bigman goes to dispel the gloom hovering around Miss Marcus.
Sirs,
Really? Would you be willing to share your past, perhaps even reveal the truth about your deaths?
Of course.
Of course, Marcus. You're the best, and our only mate, besides ourselves.
Marcus.
I also want to show you more of his place to people before completely forgotten by this world. Thank you so much, all of you. She bows sincerely before producing her pen and papers. All right. Now, where do we start? Aye, that's it. A story from some years ago. Back then, of course, I was more than a humble ghost of a man you see before you. I was the leader of this outfit, and these two were my half-witted lackeys. Yet, driven by our shared honor, faith, and my keen sense of command, we successfully defended these isles from falling into bedlam. We drove away more than a few greedy moneybags who wanted to claim these isles for themselves. Oh, and I recall we once saved a gargoyle that was dying of thirst. Throughout these heroic endeavors, it was wise old Captain James who stood sentinel of these isles, until the incident. The elder ghost rumbles on, peering over his lackeys from time to time.
No.
Oi, what a lot of bilge! If you write down anything this salty old blubberer tells you, you only have a reader left.
Sir?
It's not that we don't like your stories, Captain. It's only you went on a bit, maybe, if you don't mind. We can see if the, lass likes my story more.
You fool.
Oh, I believe you, Captain storytelling and subordination, I say. Ingrate whippersnappers. Then listen to them, wee lassie. With my daring navigational narrative, they'll be begging for your next edition.
But...
It's only, Captain, this story is not just about you. All fired up, the trio crowds around Miss Marcus, jostling for the increasingly scarce space of her manuscript paper. Gentlemen, please, quiet yourselves. We'll do it by turns. Aye, fair enough. And suppose I should have my go. I hope you're ready, lass, because I can guarantee you've got the best of the best. Now, it was my first winter on this island. On that fateful day, lass, there had been quite a few folk that had alighted with me. Police officers, some repairmen from the Northern Lighthouse board. I think one of them scamped off with my oilskin coat after they finished tinkering with the clock in the lighthouse. So there I was, there watching them from afar, waving at them as you do. Not a soul noticed me. Well, then, and if you were sitting, I'd advise you to. See, then, something out of the ordinary happened. Well, there was a sky-shrouding fog that enveloped all the isles around Aileen Moor, and even our most advanced telescopes couldn't see but half a nautical mile away. Some folk panicked. Ere long, the damned mist soaked straight into everyone's clothes, and that's when I noticed my body had gone and turned transparent.
Then...
There was a great honking rumble that grew closer and closer. I raised my head. Before me was a gigantic, towering wave, the likes of which could submerge half the island and a little more besides. Darn near swept away the lot of us. A few survivors threw themselves into the boats by the shore, so I go to wipe the water from my face. It took all but a second, and then I swear on me mum, when I looked up, the fog had gone, and the survivor boats were all anchored steadily. Must have been 5 miles out. Then it seemed just as quickly as I blinked, they were moving again, racing towards the horizon at a speed of 40 knots or more.
oh dear.
Oh my, that is truly astounding.
In fact...
Astounding, eh? Maybe, but it's the truth. I'm sure of it. I've kept it locked up tight in my mind since that day.
But...
Miss Marcus, I don't mean to interrupt, only I don't think that really happened. Why, Donald? You waited your turn to tell your little ass your story. I need to go mucking mine up. Mark my words, Miss Marcus, you're going to reel in the readers with a story. Provided, of course, that you choose it as the feature of your next edition. Her motionless pen gives away her hesitation.
Marcus.
Perhaps you might like to listen to my story first, Miss Marcus. When I was a wee bird, my granddad told me a lot of stories about these islands. Only back then they weren't called the Flannan Isles. Island Moor and its 6 nearby islands were altogether referred to as the 7 Holy Isles. Someone claimed to have unearthed some skeletons here, and the bones were those of infants. Some said they must have belonged to another race.
So,
For a while, this place was also known as the Pygmies Isle. The emotion carried in his tone is so intense that his ethereal form almost feels corporeal for a second. It was because of the stories that I joined the Northern Lighthouse Board and became an assistant lighthouse keeper here right after I finished my schooling. I hoped to uncover the truth about the Pygmies' Isle.
So,
Did you succeed?
no.
No. But I managed to find some clues, some signs that were mysterious animal whereabouts. Perhaps the Pygmies really did live here. The other two breathed a sigh of relief. I'm afraid there isn't much meat on the bone of the tale, lad. I'll be due for the main dish of the wee lass's edition. He strokes his mustache, feigning a sense of pity.
That's right.
Sorry, lad. The story is even mustier than the captain's. His was rusted on a knight's armor. It might impress a few old folks, but other than that, it's a dud. Oh, but I have evidence, Miss Marcus. I'll prove it to you. The 3 spooky would-be storytellers devolve into another fruitless argument.
Now that's experience.
Now what I'll use is the learning and understanding of the minds of our lass's readers. She is a proper story, from fine gentlemen with wealth of experience. I was sought off your experience, but the last needs are the events related to our deaths, not moldy old sailor yarns. Oh, aye. Memory, was it? You said I was spinning the yards. I've never seen anything like what you described in all my years here.
What?
We cannot go making things up for a nice story. Oh, but, well, Captain, I don't suppose you ever remember what that so-called gargoyle looked like, do you? Unless, of course, their debate is headed nowhere fast. I think we ought to leave it up to Miss Marcus to decide. The 3 shift their gazes onto the girl before them. Captain James' recollection is certainly the longest and most complete. I'm sure the readers will appreciate his thoroughness. But Thomas's experiences have the closest ties to the outside world and the mysteries of the depths, which might corroborate some circulating rumors. As for the story of the Pygmies Isle, it seems like it might have the most rich historical elements. All of these are worthy of being recorded in more detail. Her evasive gaze can't escape from the 3 spectral lighthouse keepers' eager eyes. She finds herself caught between the ghosts and the deep blue sea. Miss Marcus. Her lips trembled slightly along with the manuscript paper in her hand. I will include all of your stories. I promise. I dare not overstate the literary value of this edition. I can only share with you that it is inspired by the experiences of 3 ghosts, the very lighthouse keepers who disappeared here 12 years hence. Dear Miss Dennehy, I write to you in hopes that this latest edition will prove more than satisfactory. Did I make the right choice? Or rather, did I ever have a choice? In any case, I finally completed my edition. I hope nothing interrupts the delivery. Moreover, I hope it doesn't get rejected again. Illuminated by the dim reflection of the lighthouse's beacon against the pressing clouds, a heavy stack of manuscript papers is tossed into a lonely rusted mailbox. I sincerely don't know where this story is going at this point. They're taking it very very linearly, very slowly, and I sincerely can't imagine. Does it have 8 parts as well? Yes. Stage 4, a fraudster. I'm guessing they're going to start saying that she's a liar and that she's been a liar all along, and she will get scared and cower out of the lighthouse and into the foundation to hide from the slander. I could see that happening. A blank page is folded and unfolded again and again. Her hands repeat this action unconsciously as Miss Marcus murmurs anxiously to herself.
Theoretically.
My latest edition of History on the Flying Isles should have been published in the Daydream Past yesterday.
But
I know that if the editors were satisfied with the entry, it would have been rejected 2 days prior. But Mr. Thomas says we've received no letters at all as of yesterday. So I passed the editor's review. It must have. So I should let myself feel some relief. Thanks to the help of my ghostly friends, this latest edition covered some truly extraordinary topics and gave the readers an opportunity to better understand the Flying Isles. Maybe it will even spur a tourism boom for the Flying Isles. The local council will be very happy for it, I'm sure. Miss Dennehy, well, she'll be the editor of the year and get a substantial bonus for her tour of Europe. Now you're the exact opposite. You're thinking way too high for yourself. She provided me with so much help in writing the history of the Isles and in life more generally. She most certainly deserves this. I hope she'll find some time to send me a few new books during her trip. I've never had the chance to read the completed anthology of story of Sarah. Mr. Allais is truly ingenious. Even just the few excerpts I have from his works have inspired me so much. She muses to herself, losing herself in the tranquil depths of her world of literature. Unfortunately, her moment of tranquility passes all too quickly.
Marcus.
Miss Marcus, a whole platoon of postmen just got off the ferry. Somehow, unperturbed by the panting ghost popping his head out through the wall, Marcus reaches the meaning behind this message in a sudden rising start.
what?
A platoon of postmen? Aye, a whole slew of them. The lads and I think it must mean your new edition was a cracking success.
Maybe.
All those high-nosed hobnobs and probably planning to invite you to give lectures all around the world. How don't go forgetting us with your sudden fame. Remember it was your ghostly mates who got you there. Miss Marcus rushes to her coat, and together they speed towards the island's mail drop-off. 3 ghastly gentlemen and 1 gasping girl stand in front of a small mailbox, exchanging anxious looks.
Marcus.
Hoy, gentlemen. Miss Marcus. The postman already came and went, left as soon as they dropped off these letters. That's it? They don't ask for any local postcards, perhaps an autograph from the stars of the latest edition? Well, no. No, I suppose I don't want to spook them, since Miss Marcus asked us not to.
Everyone?
Oh, aye. They were the ones spooked, eh? Just as well, lad. We'll need some time to adjust to our new lives as undead celebrities. Now stiffen up, only a landsman gets nervous over a little rising tide. These letters are all for me? The ghosts nod in unison. Can only be, we miss. You've most certainly written a fine piece. Only natural that it might bring about a bit of zealotry. Or hatred. I can see that.
But
Still, there are so many letters. After adjusting her scarf in an attempt to cover the flush of her cheeks, she reaches over quickly for one of the letters. But as she opens it, the words within leave her painfully stunned. I want to apologize for my candor writing to you as a fan of the much celebrated writer, The History of the Flying Isles. But I feel I must express my disappointment, not just for myself, but for the thousands of other readers now feeling equally deceived. When I first read your column, I was captivated by its vivid psychological descriptions and the detailed introductions, prompting me to buy issue after issue of a magazine and even recommend it to my friends and family. Yet, I see now, you and your publisher I've concocted a massive fraud leading us in on a long con to rob us any satisfaction. Her hands freeze in place, unable or unwilling to turn the page. Daydream Post never stopped praising the upcoming edition of History of the Flannan Isles. They claimed it would finally lift the cloud of mystery looming over the Flannan Isles once and for all. I waited eagerly for almost a week for this vaunted new edition that was supposed to unveil all mysteries, only for you to introduce some sad old captain with a ghost story, an overly foggy day, followed by some island-swallowing wave, and then a bit of old history about the 7 holy isles, and nothing else. You claim this ghosts have spent more than 12 years on this island, yet you still do not provide a shred of explanation concerning the disappearance? Or why is it they became ghosts? You take the word of this ghost as face value, but are their memories even reliable? Do they even have any credible evidence? If these are truly ghosts, then why can they tell us where their missing bodies are? How can you possibly prove this isn't just another Arcanist rumbling about our own fairy tales? You try to obfuscate the hard questions with twisted yarns, but all you've done is create more mysteries, stretching them out like old taffy. But I see through it. You never had an intention to conclude this story. You've been stringing us along the whole time. You, madame, are nothing but a fraudster. Marcus stands still, her mouth agape, unable to make a sound. This letter is truly terrible. Maybe it's just a joke, like the awful pranks Captain James and Thomas sometimes play on me. Now, steady on, Miss Marcus. It's but a wide shot across the bow. Don't mistake it for a barrage. The rest of these are sure to be glowing reviews.
I agree.
Aye, the old folk is right. Average wee lass or lad thinks he's a critic these days. Let's leave it to professionals, eh? Where's that letter from Miss Dennehy? If anyone knows what way the wind's blowing, it'll be her. In a daze, Marcus rummages through the pile of letters as if seeking a life preserver in a stormy sea. Soon enough, she finds what she's looking for. Dear Miss Marcus, our illustrious writer for the History of the Flannan Isles column. Dear Miss Marcus, first, as a matter of business, I must admit that yesterday's issue of the Daydream Post, featuring the History of the Isles, was a tremendous sales success. Spurred on by the delay caused by your previous edition, it seems our journal was sold out within hours by your eager readers. But we'd only just started on the second printing before a group of frenzied readers stormed up to our office. They were waving their arms, shouting things like, "Refund, this is a fraud," and one particularly exuberant fellow claimed he'd be writing the Prime Minister to report you. After communicating with them, we realized they were all loyal readers of History of the Flannan Isles. They called your History of the Isles a premeditated scam disguised as documentary. They accused us of conspiring with you to deceive everyone. What absurd allegations. They even redirected their dissatisfaction with History of the Isles onto us, a small-time publishing house. To be perfectly candid, we did launch a significant promotional campaign before the release of this issue. However, it was not a hasty decision, it was out of a trust in you. You promised us in your submission that all your descriptions were based on first-hand experiences of those directly involved. You're responsible for their authenticity. Regrettably, things have now developed beyond anyone's imagination. We believe that if you cannot efficiently meet the reader's expectations of the next edition with a sensational conclusion or some sort of revealing ultimate truth, otherwise you may need to consider a new pseudonym or perhaps a change of subject beyond the Flannan Isles, or more simply, give up the job altogether. We sincerely hope you consider our advice above. The bitter sting of the letter saps the strength from her legs as she collapses slowly to the ground and into the heap. The ghosts attempt as best as they can to make out what the rest of the letters hold. It is despicable that you would abuse the sacred power of a pen to promote this bizarre so-called arcanum, and how much worse for its plotting, unconnected narrative. If anything at all of what you said was true, it would only mean our world had gone mad.
No.
Wrong letter. Sorry, lass. He feigns a soft bombing whistle as he tosses the letter aside.
Marcus.
Allow me, Miss Marcus. If my hairs have proved of any use at all, it has been discerning truth from slander. I wish to extend my congratulations to the author for what must have been a handsome fee you earned yourself with your talents, chief of which must be in huckstering and forgery. I pray you farewell during the common police interrogations for this fraud of an edition. Hopefully they'll be trained to make sense of this arcane stat. Apologies, it seems wisdom does not always spring from age. I think maybe I found one that isn't so terrible.
Really?
Dear author, I wanted you to know that I fully understood the deep meaning behind this publication. It is crystal clear that you drew inspiration from the stories of Penelope and the Danaids as you prepared us for an endless tapestry and a bottomless bucket. I'm so glad to be able to bear witness to what you've created, a torture to the senses which has left me wishing to swap places with Tantalus himself. So long and good riddance to your interminable stories.
Sorry.
Sorry, Miss Marcus. I was never much for reading. Was that not good? Thank you all. The same, Donald. She nods weakly towards Donald. Then, in a slow fall, to match the crashing waves against the shore, she collapses completely to the ground. You know, sometimes such things cannot be avoided when you're a writer. Sometimes you write stories that hook your readers from the first page, but by the end of it, people are not satisfied with the ending you've chosen for it. It happens. I think in general it's very hard to be a writer for a magazine, a column, because you don't cater to an audience that has chosen your work specifically. They have chosen the magazine that includes your work. So the pressure, I believe, is bigger on these people's shoulders because you have to be able to remain relevant, interesting to way more people than those that you'd normally have if your story was a standalone edition of something or a book. So I think this is what happened here. She had this niche that got many people interested, but when she actually got to how things were and the truth, because she made everything look more mysterious by using this language that she did and describing the atmosphere. Once she got to the truth of a matter, people were disappointed because it wasn't as magnificent as the rest of what was going on. Sometimes you hear all these legends and you get hooked, like mysteries about how a person died or how something got haunted or stuff, rituals happening around churches. It has happened to me too, to be fair. I once saw a documentary on a church, an abandoned church in Britain. I think it was somewhere in the United Kingdom. And because of the title and speaking about cults and witches doing stuff there, I wanted to watch it because I like this kind of stuff. And I kept watching because I was waiting to see where the good part comes, and it never came. The reason it sounded so enticing at first is because I expected something really out there. And it was in fact some dude who was taking bones out of graves because that little church had a graveyard on the side. They were taking those bones and they were forming shapes in the midst of the church, doing whatever they did anyway, and because of that people had started being afraid, but that's all they did. Okay, there was a point that they mentioned there was a man going around on a horse as well, like a ghost, but when it came to the witches stuff, it was just somebody taking bones out of graves, putting them there, and doing rituals, which wasn't anything crazy. Like, I've seen documentaries on abandoned places and the killed stuff that are way more out there than what I experienced, and I just regretted losing half an hour of my life to watch a documentary that ended up being nothing but just some guys who worshipped whatever doing rituals. I don't know how to explain this because this might sound too scary to you too, but for me, that I understand that there are people believing in different things in life, it feels like nothing. You just use an abandoned old Christian house of God, if you like, to have some rituals to the gods you believed. You didn't, though, cause anything bad beyond that. You didn't kill anyone. Sure, it became a little creepier when a priest was involved and tried to stop people from getting bones and was putting them back in the graves and all, because they started leaving messages in the man's church. That part I get it. That was creepy because it was like being targeted by these people for ruining the plans, but still it felt like it was a bunch of kids trying to prank him and scare him for intervening with whatever they were doing. It didn't feel like a real threat, you know. But because the dude was religious, obviously he would be scared of these things, and there was also a lot of pressure from his society to deal with this. Like, this reminded me more of the satanic scares of the 80s than an actual true haunting experience that you would hear about, you know. So yeah, it's really hard to not only write a story that is enticing to a bigger crowd, but also make sure that after you entice them for this long, you are going to give them the ending they want. Sometimes reality is not as fancy as we'd imagine, because people are imaginative and maybe they will think things would end up way bigger than they actually did. So yeah, for that I find the job of such people very difficult. And that extends sure to people writing books, but when you're writing a book, people already know that you've decided the ending early on. And nowadays, I think people wouldn't go as far as to attack a writer for their ending as much as they would in the past, because in the past, that self-publishing wasn't a thing. There were many times that books that probably had good endings had to be changed, just like it happened here with Marcus, according to what the publishing house wanted. And in that case, of course, you have to trust the publishing house because they have more experience with management. A writer doesn't know how to promote their books. Like, as a writer myself, I can tell you, I have a hard time promoting my own work. And in the writing communities I've participated so far, many people have a hard time doing that, especially if they're introverted and shy, like Marcus. And myself, actually. So yeah, having publishing houses really helps such people because they can give their work to somebody who has knowledge of management and promotion, and these people can attract the readers to your work because they know what to do. So in that situation, a writer that doesn't know shit about this stuff obviously would trust the publishing house when they tell them, hey, you need to change that because that's not what the readers want to read, you know? But then, because I'm sure this happened a lot in real life and still does to this day, following trends doesn't necessarily end up well for every writer. Like, sure, the publishers know that if you follow a certain route with your story as, let's say, a horror writer, you are most likely to succeed. So if a new writer comes in with a new idea that sounds a bit off, like weird or whatnot, the publishers might perhaps tell the writer, maybe you shouldn't go that weird. Maybe you should tone the weird down, okay? And after the writer does that, it ends up disappointing the readers who so far were actually in love with how weird that writer was. It happens. Even publishers, no matter how well trained they are, they can't always know what each fandom wants. They know what people want in general. So if a writer has built a fandom based on something that is not common or trendy or whatever, they might hold back a little, want to be more careful, and tell the writer to tone it down and f them up more than helping. It happens. So yeah, it is a hard life for writers. That's why I'm more into self-publishing, but yeah, in her case, she couldn't go with self-publishing. But yeah, rant over.